everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tombstone Tourist. This week, I'm at Elmwood Cemetery in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, and I'm going to be visiting a man that many of you probably won't know. But if you're a rail fan or fan of railroad photography, you will recognize the name of Winston Link, the man that documented through his magnificent photos the end of the steam era of railroad transportation. Winston Link was born in Brooklyn, New York on December 16, 1914. He is named in honor of his ancestors, Andrew Ogle and John Winston Jones, both of whom served in the United States House of Representatives. Winston's father, Al, was a school teacher who encouraged his children to develop an interest in the arts and crafts. It was due to his father's encouragement that Winston developed an interest in photography. And as a teenager, Winston used a borrowed Kodak camera and began experimenting with his hobby. After graduating from high school, Winston attended the Polytechnic Institute of Brooklyn, where he served as the photo editor for the Institute's newspaper. He graduated from the Institute with a degree in civil engineering. Following his graduation, he took a job as a photographer for a public relations firm in New York. During his employment, he fine-tuned his talent and developed the technique of making posed photos look candid. One of his first assignments took him to Louisiana, where several of his photos received national recognition and was featured in Life magazine. Capitalizing on his success in Louisiana, Winston returned to New York, where he opened his own studio in 1946. His clients included the likes of B.F. Goodrich, Alcoa, and Texaco. In 1955, Winston found himself in Staunton, Virginia, where he was able to combine his love for photography with his fascination with trains. It was here that he began to focus his attention on the Norfolk and Western Railroad, which was the last of the major railroads to make the transition from steam to diesel. While Winston financed the steam project himself, his work drew the attention of N&W President Robert Smith, who encouraged Winston to not only capture the end of the steam locomotive era, but also capture the employees of the railroad and the life of the people in the trackside communities. Over the next 5 years, Winston made more than 20 trips to Virginia, where he captured many of his most iconic photos. He also spent considerable time in the massive Roanoke shops in Roanoke, Virginia. There, he photographed the men who build and maintain the massive steam locomotives of the Norfolk and Western Railroad. While many of his photos appeared to be candid, many were actually posed and staged to obtain the best lighting. Winston once said, "I can't move the sun, it's always in the wrong place, so I have to create my own environment through lighting." Winston also perfected the art of nighttime flash photography. Now keep in mind, back in the 1950s, the equipment he used was large and bulky and required a massive amount of preparation and setup. Over the 5-year period, Winston took more than 2,000 photos and traveled throughout Virginia, southern West Virginia, and western North Carolina, capturing such iconic locomotives as the 1218 and the J-Class 611. In 1960, Winston wrapped up his work documenting the end of the steam era and returned to his New York studio, where he concentrated on commercial and business photography. From 1960 until 1983, Winston was involved in a number of projects, including documenting the great ocean liners of New York Harbor. In retirement, Winston made his home in Westchester County, New York. It was there that he discovered that his second wife was embezzling from him. The result was a very bitter and very difficult divorce. In 1996, his wife was convicted of embezzlement and served a period of time in jail. After being released from custody in 2003, she attempted to sell photographs that she had stolen from Winston on eBay. She was again arrested, convicted, and sentenced to 3 years in prison. After release from jail, she faded into obscurity and passed away in 2016. During the N&W project, Winston developed a special love for Virginia and West Virginia, where he had made many friends over the years. In retirement, Winston would return to the area several times, visiting the Roanoke shops and the many friends that he had made during those days when he was documenting the end of an era. In the early 1990s, some people began to talk about creating a museum dedicated to the works of O. Winston Link. Like all things of this nature, it took more than 10 years for those talks to become a reality. Eventually, the old Roanoke passenger station was selected as the site of the O. Winston Link Museum. Work turning the old passenger station into a museum progressed slowly, and while Winston visited the site a few times, he would not live to see the museum open. O. Winston Link, the man who so dramatically recorded the end of the steam era through more than 2,000 photographs, died of a heart attack on January 30th, 2001. He was 86 years old. 3 years later, the O. Winston Link Museum was dedicated in Roanoke, Virginia. Today, the museum features not only a full collection of Winston's photographs, but also his camera equipment and many other artifacts that he used to capture those iconic photos. It is one of Roanoke's most popular attractions, and I can say firsthand, it is a wonderful museum. Well, this is where I'm going to end this video. I hope you've enjoyed my visit to Elmwood Cemetery here in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, and the final resting place of O. Winston Link. If you did, a thumbs up is always very much appreciated. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Now, until next time, please remember, life is a wonderful journey. Be sure to take time and enjoy it. And I'll see you down the road. So long, everybody.